Hey everybody, I am Coleman Patterson and I'm a faculty member at the University of Oklahoma. I had served a long time down in Texas at a little school in Abilene, and actually this story for this Activate session presentation actually comes from an experience down there. And actually that 83 sign is going to be part of the story too. Anyways, OU, we were a host site for the Mid-South Region Conference here earlier this semester, and it was wonderful. And we're actually going to host it again. I've really enjoyed getting connected and involved with AEE. It's kind of part of my wiring, just kind of how I work and think. So anyways, here's the story. And really this story, I'm going to put the beginning of it on the day that Michael Jackson died. So it was the summer of 2009, because I presented it to students at the Dallas-Fort Worth airport as we were getting ready to fly to Vienna for a month-long study abroad. Um, Getting ready for Vienna, I'd already been the previous 2 summers. I knew that there was going to be a lot of walking and a lot of standing around. And so, in preparation for Vienna, I did a lot of walking in the neighborhood. And being the management educator, okay, so at the University in Texas, I was the director of a leadership studies program, and I was also in the business school. Okay, as a management guy. So, as the management guy, I'm always thinking about ways that students can practice leadership and management and not just have it be kind of a conceptual, theoretical thing in their head. So, while I'm walking, getting ready for Vienna, I'm trying to think of what could we do with students that would be extraordinary, something very special that would be good for them and for the university and just have a lot of other benefits. So as I was walking, I was thinking, what if we did a walk across the United States? The math didn't work out real well. That seemed like a long time. Well, how about across Texas? Also, that seemed like a long time. Well, how about a bike ride? And so I started doing the math in my head. We could do that. We could do it. So when I met the students at the airport, I brought this up and said, hey, everybody, how about this for a project? And one of them said that'd be awesome. And the rest said, no, thanks. That's crazy. So that was in 2009. And I started talking it up, talking it up, talking it up. And really, it took 4 years to find the right combination of people who thought that that might be a good idea. So in 2012, kind of the fall of 2012, we started talking about doing a ride in the summer of 2013. Now, this is one of those things that seems like a really good idea until you get close to it. Okay, kind of the theme for this is, okay, one of the best things I've ever done that almost didn't happen. All right, so that's kind of the setup. I'm going to flip over and show you some pictures. I think the pictures will make it a lot easier to see what I'm talking about. Okay, so this experience actually happened on the road to Orla. And if you look, this is West Texas. This is right underneath New Mexico, not too far from Carlsbad Caverns. Okay, so we eventually did it. Okay, we got all organized. We got everything put together. We got the bikes. We did the training. We found places to stay. It was all planned. It was ready to go. But as we got closer, I got more and more anxious. I had never done anything like that before. I had a helper who had a little bit of experience with cycling, but all the students, they were pretty much new. One guy had done a little thing with his church, but as it got closer, I just got super nervous. What if something horrible were to happen? And I remember standing on the side of the bed, packing my stuff the night before, and asked my wife, should I call this off? And she kind of said, it's too late. You've already got things in place. And so I just went in very anxious, nervous, nervous, nervous. How are we going to do this? We started driving from Abilene, where we lived, to El Paso, and we pulled off Odessa and ate, and then we followed the route. We found out that the 200 miles, it was going to be 200 miles till we saw a gas station. Well, what kind of gas mileage do you get with that? We got to a host church in El Paso. We ended up getting locked in the night before. I didn't sleep at all. We got up in the morning. We started to ride. Things were going along well. We stayed at Guadalupe Mountains National Park. The students charged their phones. We were at a primitive site. They killed the battery in my vehicle. So the next morning we got up and the car was dead, and it was 40 degrees. And so I was just so anxious, so wound up. Now here's some pictures here that I'm showing you. Here's El Paso way over on the left. What we did, the plan was to ride from El Paso all the way to Texarkana, way over on the right. And Orla is right here by Guadalupe Peak. So we spent the night there. We got up the next morning, and then we were heading down this way to go over to Kermit. And so this story I'm going to show you kind of ends in Kermit. So that's what the landscape looks like. Here's the route down here on the bottom right. But as we're riding along, so here's just to get an idea of the landscape. The second day we got up, and if you notice those pictures, well, the top one on the top left kind of shows you what the landscape looks like out there. There's nothing there. Okay. And then look at the other picture. See that green on the side of the road? Well, I think what I've discovered since then is I think it's mesquite. And so those roads are not very, they don't have big wide shoulders. That was one of the things we checked, but that's kind of the route we wanted to take. And when we pull off our support car, to pull over to get off the road in case oil trucks or anybody came by, we would have to roll over that greenery. That greenery was thorns. It had thorns in it. And so all of a sudden, as we're pulling off, and again, 200 miles from anywhere, the thorns are sticking in the car tires, sticking in the car tires. Well, what if we get flat tires? How do we resolve that out here in the middle of nowhere? We had 2 support cars. So those guys in the middle of this picture, those were my guys. And so on one of these particular stops, we did get thorns. And I jumped out. It was my turn to ride. And kind of we took turns riding. You can see the bike there in the middle. So as I got out to get on the bike, I saw all the thorns on the passenger side of the Expedition. And as I'm pulling them out, one of the thorns goes through my shoe and pokes into my toe. So it's my turn to ride. I ride with this thorn poking into my foot. And every single time I pushed down, I was thinking, this was a horrible idea. What a bad idea. Why did we ever do this? I should have canceled it. I was so wound up. And when we got to the end of my leg, so what we do is I'd ride for 5 miles, and then the support car would go in front of me, pretty far ahead, so that I could catch up, and then they would unload and get the next person ready, kind of a Pony Express relay. And as I pulled up to the front of the car, I reached down to try to pull that thorn out of my shoe, but it was all the way through the rubber, through the sole. There was no way it was coming out. And I said to the guys, the guy in the middle there, I mean, in the middle picture, in the white, it's like, I really need a pair of pliers. We had planned, we had prepared, but it was in the other car, which was ahead of us. And Josh Groves, that guy right there on the right, he says, pliers, there's a pair of pliers right here behind the car. In the 200 miles of nothingness of West Texas, we happened to stop within feet of this old rusty set of pliers. That is exactly what I needed in that moment. And at that, I was like, you're kidding. You're absolutely kidding. Like, nope. And I said, where'd they come? He said, literally, they were right behind the car. I grabbed those pliers. I pulled the thorn out, and everything changed. Everything changed. I enjoyed the rest of the ride. From there, we not only did that ride, but as you can see here, we went on to do 9 more rides. And so the second ride, we rode from Brownsville to Liberal, Kansas. Then we rode from the coast to Tex Line. Then we rode from Del Rio to the Canadian border at Lake Superior. Then we rode from Eagle Pass to the Canadian border up US 83. Then we started doing Christmas rides. So over Christmas break, we rode from Farwell all the way down to the coast. We rode across Missouri, the Katy Trail. And then this ride, kind of the one on the bottom middle, that was actually one that got iced out the first couple of days. So we actually started in Abilene and went down to the coast. And then the last one we did from Red River to the Rio Grande. We had another ride planned during COVID, and it turned into a trails ride. So we just picked out some North Texas trails and did that ourselves. Here are the conclusion pictures. So here's the first one, and they're my sneakers that had the hole in them. Okay, look at the happy faces. And the cool thing is I got to do a lot of these with my daughter, did 5 rides with my daughter. From that, okay, what's the takeaway of all this? It changed my view of offering exceptional things to students, about not being so nervous and wound up about things. And because of that, we were able to do just some incredible, incredible things. Here's a list of Model United Nations. I was asked to take that over the very next year, and I did. We hosted, we participated. We went to Vienna, and we did the United Nations at the UN in Vienna. We started an organization builders class where we traveled and studied people who built great organizations and long-lasting, enduring things like bridges and buildings. Went to New York, went to Seattle. We did a great leaders of history class in Washington, D.C. We did one around Texas. And we kind of ended up in an archives, and we got to old papers signed by Stephen F. Austin and Sam Houston and David Crockett, and a magnificent class. One of the most meaningful, the Civil Rights Movement travel class, where we went across historic sites and important civil rights sites across the Deep South. We did crisis simulations and did 3 of those at the University of Florida. We continued the outdoor leadership class, the teams class, where I had everybody play saxophones. I bought saxophones and gave them to everybody. We did a heritage and identity class. I shamelessly called Ancestry.com and asked them to give us some memberships, and they did. And so we studied genealogy and connected it to important things in history to show where we came from. And of course, we reimagined Vienna, and I took students back after the bike ride, and then we did more bike rides. So with that, worry is a misuse of imagination. I think that's kind of one of the big takeaways that I want people through this session to understand. Yes, plan and prepare and come up with contingencies, but don't be stifled. Don't be paralyzed. So I would want to encourage people. I've been doing this a long time. And at this stage in my career, I see myself as encouraging others to do things, to reach out, to be bold, and to do really cool things for your students, but it's also really cool stuff for us as well. So thanks for listening. I would love to share this in 7 minutes at the conference this coming. Oh, and one more thing. What I love about this and the conference is that in 1812, my immigrant ancestor, James Patterson, okay, right up the paternal line, he brought his family over from Scotland and England to settle right across the river from downtown Pittsburgh, what was Birmingham, Pennsylvania. Someone who was bold and daring and didn't let worry and the misuse of imagination keep him from doing something special. And so I will be eternally grateful. All right, thanks.